Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Dr. Jane. I'm going to have you tell your last name because I didn't confirm how to pronounce it beforehand. So,
well, in Italy, I say Tornatore, but here it's Tornatore. It's not as fun, but
right. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, I am. I love the name of your podcast because I think I was born a perfectionist. And I'm what I call now a recovering perfectionist because I don't think you can recover from being a perfectionist. I think it's just kind of a drive that leads us, which is awesome when we do it with self-compassion and self-care. And it sucks if we do it with judgment and I have to and obligation. So I just, as soon as I saw the title, you're like, oh, I want to be on your podcast. I want to be on your podcast.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm a perfectionist, and I'm also a psychotherapist, and I'm moving into coaching because what I realized about not everybody, but with a lot of psychotherapy, people come because they feel they're broken and they want to be fixed, and they need someone outside of themselves to help fix them, and that's more the mindset. And I don't think that's an empowering mindset. For me, it's we're already good. We're fine. But especially perfectionists want to always be better, which is awesome if we don't beat ourselves up because we're not already the better that we want to be. I mean, it's an awesome trait. So really how I prefer to work is you're already good. You want to expand into yourself. You want to be more. You want to know yourself more. You want to have more self-compassion. Awesome. Let's expand you versus fix you. So I'm super excited. It just feels so much more empowering and kind with that message.
Yeah, I agree completely. I've had those feelings of I'm broke, somebody fix me.
Yep.
And I'm a lot happier with the I just want to improve on areas that in our household we call them up level. You know, we're good, but this is a place that we could up level. And yeah, I love the language of that because it's not, this is how you suck and you need to fix yourself.
Right, I know. But that's what we're taught, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
This is bad, fix it. You can do better, fix it. This is just not everybody, but many of us got that lesson. And the strange thing is I finally realized not until my 40s, I think, that message of like, oh, come on, that's stupid, do it better. Come on, you can do better. It actually slowed my progress to where I wanted to be. When I was kinder, did smaller little steps and was more forgiving of like, oh, that was a mistake I really wish I wouldn't have made. But how do I fix it?
Yeah.
Like I loved when I was listening to your topic on self-care, when you're talking to your son and said, well, okay, so you figure out what happened. And then you apologize, make amends. We move so much faster to how we want to be when that is our roadmap versus, come on, do it better. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Those contract us and can create shame and actually push us away from our goal. But none of us really learned that what we are doing is exactly the opposite of what really helps. Like up leveling, yay, that feels good. Right? Versus, oh God, right?
I gotta fix. Well, and I think that, whether we get the message or we're taught that we need to fix, it feels broken. We feel
Yes.
wrong. It
Right.
feels like something's because a lot of it is like I look at you and I see like you've got everything together. You're Dr. Jane, and like here I
Right.
am just, not. And so she's got her life together. There must be something wrong with me.
Right. I've got a theory I call the orange bowl theory, which is, say you're an orange in a bowl of oranges. You're looking at all the other oranges, perfectly round, beautifully orange, dimple, just beautiful, clean, beautiful. But you look at yourself and you see the sticky, messy pulp.
Mm.
And you're like, ugh, and I squirt and I get all sticky and oh, what a mess I am. But nobody else can see our messy insides unless we choose to say, um, here's something I want to share that's kind of vulnerable and it feels kind of, I feel weak or broken, but it's kind of who I am. So I'm sharing it with you
Yeah.
to appropriate people, right? Not to everybody.
Yeah.
But when we share, here's where I'm struggling, which you do beautifully on your podcast. Here's where I'm struggling. Everybody else gets to see, oh, she's a messy orange too. She looks perfect, right? Nobody looking at you would go, oh my God, you had to really learn a lot to move to up level versus like nobody, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we see the 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 outsides that people want us to see. We choose to share the insides that are safe enough to share. And that's where the connection comes. And that's where the drive to be perfect can relax a little.
I love the way that you described recovering people pleaser, or I'm sorry, recovering
Both
perfectionist.
work, right?
My brain went to people pleaser because that's how I feel about people pleasing. It's
Yes.
like, and I also identify. I picked imperfect momming, and then after the fact, I was like, oh my gosh, I always wanted everyone to think that I was a perfect mom.
Yes.
And it stemmed from I wanted everybody to think that I was a perfect child, and that just
Yes.
transferred over into perfect mom. And if I realized recently that if I was thinking that how my behavior reflects on my parents, then I also may have this connection that my son's behavior reflects on me.
Yeah, no
And
pressure.
so, and I was trying to control a lot of his behavior and a lot of my frustration in the early parts of his life, where I was still trying to figure out why does this kid have tantrums because his toy fell off the table? And
Right.
when we have to leave the park, like I don't understand why he's throwing a conniption fit over leaving the park. Like we've been here for an hour. When I was in those moments, it was like, oh God, people are looking at me because my
Yes.
child is screaming. When it's like everybody's child screams when it's time to leave the park.
Right. They don't want to leave the park, period. And they
Right.
they have not learned yet that it's not okay to express what you don't agree with. They're just children going, I have feelings, I will express them. Bless the children.
God bless them. Because I think that there's a lot of adults that still don't know how to appropriately express their feelings.
Absolutely. Well, because they learned to not,
Right.
because they did have parents or, authority figures or even friends who said, stop that. That's bad. You're embarrassing me. So kids are like, okay, I will not. I will be silent because otherwise I'm a bad kid. And they're just being kids.
Yeah. And there's so much, I remember my boyfriend was the one that pointed me in the direction of reading parenting books. He's like, you read all of these self-help books. Why don't you read a parenting book? And so I found a parenting book that was disguised as a self-help book, and I was in love with it. Oh my gosh. And I talk about him all the time, Dr. Dan Siegel, and
Oh,
his No Drama Discipline was the first one that I found, and then Parenting from the Inside Out is more the personal development one. where he talks about how our childhood wounds are resurface when we become parents. And so that's when it's like you open your mouth and your mother comes out, and it's like, oh, I thought I would said I would never be like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yep.
well, there's wounds there that you haven't healed. Yeah. So what you said, you're transitioning from psychotherapy to coaching. Is the coaching world, do they just have that attitude, a different attitude towards I'm broken, fix me? Or what is the reason for the shift?
Well, I'm going to be I'm a different therapist. I'm also going to be a different coach. Many coaches seem to be future oriented and goal oriented. Because I'm a perfectionist, when I make goals or when I have goals, I never do them well enough. So I kind of shy away from making goals because it's a way for me to beat myself up. Oh, because I always make unrealistic goals. So it just doesn't work for me. For other people, it totally works and it motivates them. So so I'm going to be a different coach than that. I'm not going to look to the future. I'm going to be more of a present moment coach, because what happens in the present moment is that's when change can occur, because those past wounds we have, many of them happened before the age of 7, when our brain was, still doing massive development. But they come up in the present moment when those triggers come up in the present moment. But when we're in the present moment and we're like, I can do this differently. I can be safe, even as I'm experiencing this trauma from the past, which feels like totally present moment. Then we can start to literally rewire, which Dan Siegel is brilliant at, rewiring. We can rewire those past traumas with present moment safeness. And whatever keeps us from feeling lovable and safe will come up.
Yeah.
So it's really about being in the present moment and having compassion for us now of like, oh, wow, I just yelled at my kid because I'm super frustrated. I haven't gotten enough sleep. I'm super busy. I haven't taken any time for myself. And it comes out, wow, okay, so I want to do that differently. Instead of going, what's wrong with you? You know you should sleep. Come on. Now you yell at your kid, and now your kid's gonna be damaged for life, right? This is how our perfectionist mind versus, okay, so I screwed up there. But as I also loved from that podcast, I listened, you can tell I just love that self-care podcast. It's the repair, which is more important than the first mistake. Oh, I yelled at you. Okay, so here's what I did. I apologize. Here's how I really wanted to say that. And, how did it affect you? How do you feel? I love you. Whatever your words are. But the repair is so profoundly powerful. And perfectionists think that if I screwed up, I screwed up. Recovering perfectionists go, oh, I screwed up again, and I can do a repair. Yay.
Right.
And build a new neural pathway every time I repair. Yay. So it's actually good. Repairing is awesome.
And it's funny because I have an example from this morning. It was so interesting to me. Yesterday, I was in such a good mood, like off the charts good mood. And I was like wanting to dissect it. Like, what created this off the chart good mood so I can recreate it all the time?
Right?
So I can always have this good mood.
Always.
Always. Never be in a bad mood. And this morning, I woke up at 5 o'clock, which is much easier when the time changes and you gain an hour.
Right.
And so now you guys know when this is being recorded, is that
right.
An hour. But I woke up at 5 and I did the normal things that I do, and I listened to something motivational, and I play my little video game because I'm not walking right now because I'm trying to keep babies inside instead of make them come early.
Right.
So playing my little video game, and I did a little journaling and all the things I normally do. And then I woke my son up, and we had made a plan the night before that he was going to read a chapter before going to school. And he decided in the moment he didn't want to read the chapter, that he was too tired. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And he goes, but I'm really hungry. And I said, okay, I'll get some breakfast. But I knew we were out of milk, so there's no cereal. And so I was like, okay, well, I know we're out of yogurt, so there's not that. I went looking for the little sausage patties that I know he likes for breakfast. We're out of that.
Oh, no.
We have some breakfast corn dogs. He doesn't like those. So I'm like going through all the list, and I have a little trigger around his picky eating. So we're hitting the trigger of the picky eating.
Yeah.
Well, so then I found these little French toast bites, or they're pre-packaged. I'm telling you all of my secrets of how I'm not a cook. I did ask him if he wanted eggs, and he said no. I tried. Bacon was frozen. Like, there was everything that he likes. I was out of everything, and so I'm triggered because of the food pickiness, and I knew I should have gone to the store yesterday, and I didn't.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so I asked him about these cinnamon toast bites, and his favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Right.
So in my mind, you should know what cinnamon toast bites are. And he's like, well, I don't know what cinnamon toast bites are. And I'm like, they're little pieces of bread dipped in cinnamon. And I said, I'm going to make them because it's the only thing we have.
Right.
And you can try them. And if you like them, great. If you don't, I don't know what we're going to do. And so I bring him out to him, and he goes, Mom, why am I getting an attitude? I didn't. And he just bursts into tears. I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And I just immediately gave him a hug, and I said, this is all my frustration that we don't have any food for you to eat. And
Beautiful.
it's, and then so I finished with the breakfast, and then I said, would you like me to sit next to you? And he goes, I think I would enjoy a snuggle this morning. And he's just, even the phrase, like, I think that the phrase of why am I getting attitude would trigger some moms. But that's the phrase that I use with him.
Yeah.
So he's just imitating back to me what I do.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't like that phrase, I would have to shift how I say it so that he doesn't say the same thing.
Right. Now, how old is your son?
He's 10.
I just want to just bow in awe, because to have a little 10-year-old go, Mom, why the attitude? I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, for him to see your behavior and see his behavior and go, oh, this is not about me. Right. That's astounding.
Yeah.
That kid has that level of, this is not about me. What's up? Right. He's taking responsibility for his own feelings, not yours. It's awesome. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'd love the flip side of that. We're still working on the flip side where he takes responsibility for his actions. Yeah. I think that's also an emotional maturity thing, because I know many, many adults that don't take responsibility for their actions. And that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, because I'm like, hardcore, this is me. I did it.
Me too.
And I there's a part of me that expects that back. And I don't get it. So it's a pet peeve.
That'd be nice.
Like, I treat people how I want to be treated. So bring it back.
Yes. Would the world work that way? But it does not. But I firmly believe, though, that the more we take responsibility for our thoughts, our actions, our feelings, um, the more we just implicitly model that, the more it's available to other people. So whether they can see it, receive it in the moment, it's still, I'm a big fan of this. I learned from therapy school. Like, you plant seeds. You say something, they may not be available for that at that time, but you're still planting seeds. So when they're ready, like, I have a story. I was seeing a therapist once, and I was talking to my mom, like, Mom, my therapist is brilliant. Guess what she told me? And I don't remember what it was, but Mom said, I told you that 10 years ago. And I'm like, really? I don't remember. One, she was my mom. So what? I wasn't going to listen to her because I was in my 20s. But two, I wasn't ready for it then.
Yeah.
This therapist said it at just the time that my psyche was like, oh, I want that learning right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're planting seeds all the time.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite phrases, is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And it's there are some times where I've leaned too much into that, where I like ignore the people that are close to me. But when I talk to someone who's on my podcast and they say something that my boyfriend's been telling me for 4 years, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just learned this new thing. He's like, literally been telling you that for 4 years. It's very frustrating. I'm like, I know, but she is the expert, and you're
so I believed her.
Exactly. It's like, well, sometimes you have to plant the seed, and it has to be watered over time. And if you hadn't been telling me for the last 4 years, I wouldn't be open to it when she told me.
Right. Nice frame there.
I know how to talk my way out of
Done.
stuff. For sure. Oh my gosh, so funny. I did want to say that I liked your orange analogy, and I was thinking it, and I was like, I don't think I actually said that out loud, but I do like your bowl of oranges analogy.
Yeah.
Because we are aware of what's going on. Hopefully, we are aware of what's going on inside of us, and all we can see is the polish and the pristine of what other people are showing us,
Yes.
which I think was your point. So, but that is beautiful.
It's great.
And
It gives us more compassion for ourselves and other people.
mhm. Yeah, that's one, and that's one thing that I had taught my son, is that hurt people hurt people. So when he would have somebody being mean to him, it was because that kid is hurting, and he doesn't know what else to do with his pain. And my son, ever the scientist, asks them what's hurting them, what are they hurting about? And he goes, Mom, they told me they're not hurting, so I don't think that that's true. And I'm like, it's true, they just don't realize it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. He's got such a big heart. He said the other day, I don't remember what brought this up, but he was talking about how when he sees a kid all by himself or by herself, that he goes out and reaches out to them to give them a friend, to have somebody that
Wow.
they can talk to. But nobody does that back to him, and that makes him really sad. And I was like, well, you're going to have more friends because you do that to them, and other people aren't doing it,
Well, it's interesting you just said that. I just this morning started a book called Reclaiming Conversations
Mm.
By Sherry Turkle. And she talked about how the increase in kids using their phones and just devices has literally lowered empathy. And that she was talking with one middle school principal and working at the school, and they talked about how kids, because they're spending more time on their devices and having communication through there, they don't learn to read other people's emotions. Like, they don't see hurt, they don't see loneliness, they don't, we aren't using our mirror neurons.
Yeah.
Because our mirror neurons are, some think, the source of our empathy, right?
Yeah.
And our mirror neurons trigger other people's mirror neurons and vice versa. But if we're looking at a device doesn't have mirror neurons. So we're not learning these basic ways of seeing and perceiving and understanding other people that your son has learned, but a lot of his classmates haven't.
Yeah.
So he is going to be more lonely
Mm.
just in general, but he will also, sparkle and find those other kids who also somehow grew up in an environment where they learned through communication,
Yeah.
empathy. They're going to be fewer, it seems like now, but they will be there.
The really interesting thing about that, because that's fascinating, is that my son is on the spectrum. And one trait that they typically have on the spectrum is not having empathy for others.
Right.
And 100% I will see that in him. I do see that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But other times I see such extreme empathy from him, like what I just described. And he's very in tune to reading my face. Another conversation we had recently was that he was perceiving me as never smiling at him.
Oh,
And I was like, well, I know that I do.
right. I know. So
But,
no, it's not true actually, but
let's talk this out. And it came up because I was watching and re-listening to a podcast episode. And he's looking at my face and I'm smiling.
mm-hmm.
And so he's cycling through his memories that he remembers of me not smiling at him.
Right.
And it hurts his heart. And I said, well, so I didn't use this language with him, but you know how people have a customer service voice?
Uh-huh.
I have a customer service face.
Yes. Yes.
And
right.
So when I'm talking to you, I know how to put on a smile on my face, whether I'm feeling the smile or not.
Right.
And that's what he sees a lot of me in my interactions. And I also have resting face.
Right.
And so when I'm super concentrating on something, my face goes into no smile.
Right.
And so he was talking about like when I'm at a family function and I'm talking to someone in the family and I have the smile on my face and he'll come up to me and interrupt the conversation. And I turn and I look at him and now I'm focused on his face and I'm focused on the question and I'm focused on what he's saying and what he's asking and what he wants. So the smile goes away. And then he gets the answer to the question. And then I go back to the smile. And so he said, well, Mom, just when this happens, just check your emotions. I'm like, okay, I'll check my emotions. He's a little mini therapist already. Just
apparently that's awesome.
And and it was hard because I was talking to my mom about this too, and she was in Scotland for a month on vacation, and she said, I have that same face when I'm concentrating. And she said there were some pictures that were taken without my knowledge while we were on the trip, and I just look angry.
Wow.
And I was like, and I found out also she had got COVID while she was on the trip. So she probably wasn't feeling too good either at the same time. So, but yeah, there's a lot of pictures that have been taken of me without my knowledge where I'm like, oh, I don't look very happy. It's such an interesting, but like my biggest gratitude of all of my interactions with him is that he talks to me about the stuff that hurts his feelings.
That's
because
amazing.
I would wager a bet that 99% of my limiting beliefs in my life came from misinterpreting my parents' reactions to me.
I'd say 99% of everybody's limiting beliefs is like assuming what people are thinking. Like one of my favorite phrases is, I have a story and I'm checking it out with you. Because I've got lots of, and I first learned this when an ex-boyfriend of mine said to me, as I was like, and you're doing this, and here's what's it. And he said, next time before you make up the story, can you just come talk to me first? we'll save a lot of trouble. And I'm like, oh my God, I completely made up a story.
Yeah.
But it was just in my mind, it was reality, it was truth. So yeah, if more of us had the courage to say, hey, I've got a story, is it true?
Yeah.
And
And
then
I'm in that habit with my boyfriend where I do the stories. Like I've been a fiction writer since I could put two sentences
right,
together.
I know.
Loves the stories.
Right, me too.
And so we have a new dog, and within the first week of her arriving in our house, she destroyed the couch. And I'm very upset about that. So we we bought her a kennel so that she could be put away at night and put away while we're gone.
Right.
We're not gone very often. Both of us have work from home jobs. Most of the time we're home. So she's not in the kennel a lot. But yesterday I had to take the other dog to the vet, and she's never been alone, let alone alone without the other dog.
Oh yeah.
So I was afraid of how she was going to behave while she was alone. So I uh, gently requested that he put the dog in the kennel while I was gone. And I said that I would be home by 10. I ended up not getting home till noon. But when I got home, she greeted me at the back door. And I was like, oh, lovely that he doesn't listen to what I ask him to do, and so on. And the house smelled like an animal had gone to the bathroom, and but I couldn't find any evidence of it, and I was super confused. And he got home a few minutes after I did, and um and I had texted him, well, she didn't do any damage. There's a poo smell, but I can't find it. And he said, she wasn't in the cage. And I was like, no. And he goes, what do we have, a freaking Houdini dog? I put her in the cage. I swear I put her in the cage this morning. So we think what happened was that he locked the top and not the bottom, and she was able to squeeze through the bottom part. But I knew, like, I can't even get mad if he didn't put the dog away,
right,
because
I
she
know.
didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was, I found the source of the smell, and she had gone in the kennel, and so we had to deal with that. But it was like, I can't get mad at him, because whether he did what I asked or not, the reason that I asked him to do it was so there would be no damage, and there was no damage.
Right.
But it's like a lot of people will come say, oh, how dare you not? And he did. And then that would lead to a fight. That's not fair, but I love that. Tell me the phrase again so I can remember it.
I have a story that I want to check out with you.
I have a story that
Let's
I
see
want
if
to check
it's true.
out.
Yeah.
Mhm. Very
I
cool.
think I might have gotten that from Brene Brown. I'm not sure.
Mm.
But that's definitely something she would do.
I was going to say, that sounds like Brene Brown.
Does sound like Brene Brown. I bet you it is.
Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms?
Yes. So, actually, I share this. If I were to have a gravestone, I want this on my gravestone.
Okay.
If I were queen of the world, I would ban should, must, have to, and need, because they create stress. Now, we all have these things we should do. We have these lists, these to-do lists. But when we say them, like, will you do an experiment with me?
Mm-hmm.
So what's something that you should do or you have to do?
I should do the laundry.
Right. So say that again.
I should do the laundry.
Close your eyes. What do you feel? What do you feel in your body?
Guilt over the laundry not being done.
Yeah, nice noticing. Where do you feel that guilt? Like,
Yeah.
where does that guilt show up in your body?
I feel that in the center of my chest.
In the center of your chest. Great. Nice noticing. Okay, so open your eyes. Now say, it'd be helpful to do the laundry, or it's a good idea to do the laundry, whichever feels better to you.
It's a good idea to do the laundry.
Great. Close your eyes. What do you feel?
Nothing.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so open your eyes. Which felt better?
The second one, I'm snorting.
Exactly. Right? So these
For sure.
words are so small, but they're so powerful. Literally, when we say should, must, have to, need, and for Midwesterners and Australians, gotta,
Yeah.
we create this boundary that if, especially if we should for me is my most powerful word, because if I should do it, even if I do it, I should have done it already.
Yeah.
So I failed, right? Because if it's on my list and I haven't done it yet, I've already failed. Versus it would be a good idea. Because it would be a good idea. It's on my list for a reason, right? But when I say it'd be a good idea, it just kind of sets my unconscious into, well, if it's a good idea, then when can I fit it in my day versus, oh God, and I suck because I haven't done it because I don't have time. And I always, our mind just goes down this spiral of overwhelm and I suck. So my advice is instead of should, must, have to, need, say it'd be a good idea or it would be helpful. And just notice how much less stress we automatically have in our life just by shifting those few words.
I love that. And if you're ever writing a book, that's your book to write, because that's, unless you already have.
I do, yeah. Yeah. What is it? Everything's perfect, just not me, a roadmap to self-compassion or self-acceptance. And that's in there because I will tell everyone, if you sit next to me more than 5 minutes, that's going to be coming out of my mouth because it's so powerful.
And the funny thing about that is I said laundry, and it's true. You know, I have laundry to do.
Yeah. Always.
And I have my day organized by tasks that require energy and my brain power are done earlier in the day.
Yep.
Then the things that don't require brain power or a lot of energy get done later in the day. So I actually already have time scheduled to do the laundry, and I still felt guilty when I said should.
Right?
That's
the power of these
crazy.
words. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful insight there. That's the power of these words. And these are the words we learn to motivate ourselves. Look at what we do to ourselves all day long. Because when I say this to people, many of them go, I say it all the time. I'm like, yeah, we do. We do.
You tell me the name of your book again, because I'm going to get that.
Awesome. Yay. Everything's perfect, just not me.
Everything's perfect, just not me. Okay, everybody go get that book. I love that so much. And I know those words are not good words, and we should all over ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful. And I wish we had another 2 hours to talk about it. Is there a book that you want to recommend? And it's okay if it's yours.
Well, yeah, okay, so I'll recommend that one. I love it. It's super simple because it's written for perfectionists, because I am one, and it's like less than 50 pages. And it's stuff that I give my clients, which are kind of bedrocks for how we can be kinder to ourselves and seeing how our brain naturally works and how our psyche tends to work. So we can kind of work with who we are versus I should be different and just be able to do this versus this is how I am. What are things I can do to get me to how I want to be? So it's just super simple little tricks that I give everybody and I use constantly on myself to help us just have more self-compassion. And, when we're kinder to ourselves, it always comes out as being kinder to other people. Always, always, always. It can't help but come out. Be kinder to others when we are kinder to ourselves.
Which is kind of the flip side of hurt people hurt people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I never thought about that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, that just came, that's amazing that the kinder you are, how you treat other people is a reflection on how you treat yourself.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Always. No exceptions. When people say, no, they're just mean people, I'm like, no, they're hurt people. They are as mean to themselves. They will never let you see it, but they're as mean to themselves and probably meaner than they are to you. Always. They just don't tell us that because who would?
Right.
There's that much shame.
We don't want to advertise any of that.
No.
Yeah.
And we do a disservice. And that's why I would also recommend Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, because she is brilliant at saying, here's how I'm imperfect too. And she writes book. She's like the best known person on imperfection in the world. And she just, every book, she just lays out, it's like, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's how I failed again, but I'm still working. I'm still moving to be better. So she is my role model for walking the talk of, you know, it's okay to be imperfect because you're human, you will be. So give up the perfection, be real, and work on being better. Like the two,
Yeah.
you know, you can have better and self-compassion.
Yeah.
It just works so much better.
Better parenting through self-healing.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
self-kindness even.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've merged Mel Robbins and Brene Brown in my head. But they're two different people.
Yeah, right.
That's all I had. I was like, I think I've merged them. They're not the same.
They're not the same, but they both have powerful messages. Absolutely.
Yes, they do. I'm very glad that I had a voice today. So this morning I was taking my son to school and I was like, how's my voice sound? He goes, raspy. And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, this has been on the calendar for a long time. I hope that my voice
it's
holds up
just fine. Right.
So it doesn't sound
like raspy voices because it makes me, I don't know if you remember Lauren Bacall, but I always wanted to have a Lauren Bacall voice, that husky, sexy. And so when I have a cold, I'm like, this is the closest I'm going to get to Lauren Bacall.
Which reminds me of Phoebe Buffay when she had, her cold and she's singing My Sticky Shoes.
I don't know that one, but I think I'll look that
up. That's a Friends reference. Yes. And where can our listeners find you?
Everydaylove.me.
Okay. I need to follow you in everything that you do.
You don't need to, but it might be helpful. Hopefully it'd be helpful.
Yeah. Oh, need to. That's one of the bad phrases. I want to follow you and everything.
Yeah, and just notice it. I need to. There's so much information out there that I'm an information gatherer, and there's so much need. Oh, I need to listen to that. I need to, and I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah. It would be helpful, but I get to decide if I really want to in this moment.
Yeah.
So much kinder. So much kinder.
It is, and it's a lot less overwhelming too, because I have a list of the things that I want to listen to.
Right. Me
and
too.
it's a ever growing list of people who put out new content every single day, and it
doesn't grow smaller. And
we're in the information age.
Yes. So that's my work, is to find space in this information age, because there's always more than there will always be more than I can do. And especially, moms, forget about it, right? The list is at least 100 times more than is ever going to be able to be accomplished in a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we choose because what we want, then we'll feel good about what we're consuming. And the other stuff is like, well, maybe that's for somebody else.
Focus on your priorities, like what's important to you, and why are you shooting on yourself about, I should be listening to this. And it's like, well, what's the priority?
Yeah. And what feels good? Like, does it feel good to have that should, or does it feel good to go, I'm going to let that go? Like Saturday, I did nothing but read. That's all I did all day long. And I'm like, you should be productive, but I don't want to be productive. I don't want to be productive. So I wasn't. It was awesome. I can't do that every day, of course, but once in a while, it's so freeing.
It feels so good every once in a while, for sure.
Every once in a while, yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast and pouring into our guests. And I feel like I've known you my whole life. Like we jumped on Zoom and we just started talking.
We did.
We should have hit record. I have to eliminate that word from my language.
You don't have to. Yeah, you'll just notice. Now that I pointed out, you'll be like, oh my God, I say it constantly. So everybody does that at first. You will notice how often you say it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But that's okay, because noticing is the first step to, I have choice. We do.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
good.
it's a lot. It's what we're taught.
Yeah. It's just embedded in our language. But yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So there will be another episode of Imperfect Mommy next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.